Hey, welcome to the Lowdown this week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching if you're over on YouTube. Again, if you're not a newsletter subscriber, make sure you grab that link down below. Absolutely free. Get these nugget bombs dropped each and every week. But with that being said, let's jump into the Lowdown this week. Got a nice picture of the old J-31 or J-35. It started at the FC-31. The Chinese debuted it at the Zhuhai air show this past week. Their J-35, which kind of looks like an F-35 minus the two engines, but nose on, the canopy opening forward. Looks very similar to an F-35. Wonder where they got that. So check that out in the newsletter. We got a little history of the day, which this week was the first successful kamikaze attack during World War II. That was on November 12th, 1944. Obviously, it changed a lot of the mindset and the way the battle was fought in the Pacific there. So check the newsletter out if you want some more nuggets about that. Thread of the day this week, J-35. Again, grab the newsletter, check that out. Got what we know about the J-35 out in the open source, as well as a picture of it from the demo this past week. I'm sure we'll be learning more about that, as the years go by. But this week, over to the flight line. So Russia was catching some flack. I just put a video out about this on YouTube, actually. The Su-57 showed up at the Zhuhai air show, and they caught a lot of flack on social media from Chinese attendees who were walking around the Su-57. Turns out it was a T-50. The T-50 is the prototype. They built 10 of these prototypes, 7 of which were flyable, that led to the generation of the Su-57, which apparently Russia has about 25 of those right now. So on social media, the attendees are up close and personal. You can click the link in the newsletter or, again, go watch the video where I break this down. But lots of fasteners, lots of panels that are sticking up that you would not want in your fifth generation fighter, because those are always going to generate a radar signature and bring that back. So not what you want. But again, to be fair, this was the T-50, the prototype. That's what Russia takes to air shows to showcase the Su-57. Interesting to me that this is what you take. I always want best and brightest, put the best foot forward. But in this case, that's what they take. They could be worried about espionage. They might not want it to be in China. There's a whole slew of reasons. So they just don't have enough Su-57s to send them to air shows. There's a myriad of reasons why they might do it. But this jet is not a Su-57 that is combat coded or configured. Be like an old F-16D model. You're not taking that battle pig to war anymore. Just need the extra gas. So not what you want, but interesting. Also, the air show. China unveiled the J-35A. Again, remember, I butchered in the beginning. Started out lots of iterations over the last decade with prototypes, models, etc. But this is J-35A that took to the skies, much like the Air Force's F-35A, which takes off and lands from runways. On display was a model of a variant that, in theory, will be able to operate off carriers, which is much like the F-35C that the Navy operates. There was no B model or talk of B model, supposedly, which is what the Marine Corps flies, as well as a few other nations, which has that vertical takeoff and landing capability. It did do a 5-minute aerial display. Again, I think a big step forward for China as far as stepping into the fifth generation world. They do have the J-20 already. TBD as far as what the capabilities are of this jet and how robust and if it actually is a true match. My guess is probably not. Producing stealth fighter, fifth generation modern aircraft at scale is a really challenging thing to do. Not saying the Chinese can't do it. The F-35 just passed the number 1,000 for aircraft produced. So producing the J-35 on scale, again, don't count the Chinese out, but it is a big mountain to climb when it comes to doing that. So they probably have a few years before that thing is fully operational and out and about. Analysts say it could be anywhere 10 to 15 years, which is probably a little stretch from there. So B-52s, B-1s being deployed. A lot of iron has been moving to the Middle East over the past month. We've talked about in the newsletter and what's going on. But B-52s showed up in Qatar, I believe. They showed up in the Middle East. I don't know if it was actually Qatar. First time they've been deployed out into the Middle East since 2019. And then in Japan and South Korea, B-1Bs were flying in formation, participating in exercises with other other nations. And that's as a result of the Korean missile test we highlighted a few weeks back, where they launched an ICBM into the ocean. A pretty aggressive maneuver there. So a lot of things happening. A Russian soldier has been captured. He surrendered, and he elected to be captured, or surrender rather, than be shot by North Koreans. So obviously North Korea has shown up on the lines in Ukraine. Anywhere from 8 to 12,000 is what it appears to be out in open source. The number of North Koreans that have been sent to the front lines or sent to Russia to fight in Ukraine. While this Russian soldier is claiming that he was embedded with these North Koreans who started opening fire on other Russian positions, he tried to get them to stop, but to no avail. So he said it was better to surrender than be shot by these North Koreans that he's been embedded with. Looks like North Korea supposedly is paying these soldiers $2,000 a month, or the Russians are paying them $2,000 a month. Who knows how much they actually get to take home. But yeah, definitely signaling more changes and more variables going into this fight. So a NASA astronaut is still in the hospital after returning a few weeks ago. Name's not released. However, I think if you can do the puzzle, you probably can figure out which astronaut it is. But it was as a result of the astronaut stuck in space for, what was going to be like a 7 or 8 day space journey, turned into several months. Went up on the Boeing Starliner and then had to be returned on the SpaceX capsule, had to go save them because Boeing couldn't make it happen. They also got delayed for a few extra days or weeks because of Hurricane Milton that delayed the recovery there. All right, near and dear to my heart, the 737 in Brazil that caught fire. This is a cargo fire. Cargo fire on a plane, period, never a good thing. Usually doesn't end well. It sounds, or at least it seems from the information I'm seeing and the fact that these guys landed and got out, that this occurred somewhere in the vicinity of the airport nearby, and they were able to immediately initiate procedures to start landing the plane. If you're far away from a spot and this thing starts cooking off, whatever it might be, it said fire crews work for hours to put it out. I don't know if it's a lithium battery fire. Usually does not end well. A lot of things that are critical that if they burn in a plane, stop working and the plane stops flying. But these guys safely landed in an egress aircraft, which is a good thing, which leads us to our next article, and that's Russia. So investigations are alleging that the Russian military, the GRU, their intelligence arm, they were the ones responsible for the incendiary devices that were located / caught on fire in July in Europe. So this happened, I believe, at one DHL facility, maybe one other one at Leipzig airport. So these devices were hidden. They were sabotaged. One caught fire on the ramp. There are pictures out there. Supposedly that caught fire on the ramp because the plane was delayed and hadn't gotten loaded. And this is what they're saying is a test run to disrupt U.S. and Canadian-based flights running across the ocean there. So not good. Hopefully they figure out how to solve that problem. All right, the next generation stealth tanker might be too costly. Air Force haven't spent a lot of money to advance. We got the next generation air dominance fighter, the next generation air refueling system. There's a picture in the newsletter, and if you're on YouTube, you see it as well, of Lockheed Martin's generation or their rendering of what in-gas might look like. But a lot of expensive things going on. Obviously, in-gas, like I said, NGAD, and then the LGM-35, that's the nuclear missile upgrade, which is just running through the roof as far as cost goes, not only from the upgrade, but upgrading the silos, things they didn't have to worry about back in the day with property, people living out west. All these silos are disconnected, and they're now having to deal with land rights, running through people's property, and obviously just the technology spend to improve all this stuff. Oh yeah, and the B-21. So really expensive, but the tanker is kind of a critical component when it comes to fighting and fighters. Israel has announced a 25 F-15IA jet purchase. So buy more F-15s. They fly them now. They fly F-16s. They fly the F-35. Obviously, these will all pair together. 2031 is when they're supposed to start receiving these. It is looks like a $5.2 billion deal, touting an AESA radar, missile warning, fly-by-wire, which is all kind of standard. I imagine all those are integrated, and that's part of the puzzle here. Has a payload capacity of 13,000 kilograms or 28,000 pounds. I don't know how that's broken down. Obviously, F-15E, the Strike Eagle, those things, man, they can carry bombs for days and all sorts of stuff. One article said it had a range of like 12,000 miles. I cannot believe that would be the case. That's like flying halfway around the world in a fighter jet. But I imagine that it does have extended fuel tanks or something that's magical that goes on. They can slap on and extend the range. Turns out that's a thing Israel does on occasion. All right. The U.S. is sending contractors to Ukraine. This is the first time sending them to Ukraine to work on F-16s and the Patriot missile battery system. I've said it from the beginning, the maintenance piece, maintenance makes the world go around. Learning how to fly these planes is one thing, not necessarily an easy thing to do, but then being able to support them with logistics and maintenance is an entirely different can of worms. A lot of work that goes into it. Just the corporate knowledge and the expertise it takes for someone to gain working on these advanced fighters is not an easy thing to do. And obviously they're going to rely upon contractors. So I guess previous U.S. Air Force, mostly, I would envision maybe obviously European nations that fly F-16, getting them to go over there and help the Ukrainians fix these things in country versus having to send them out, saving time, so on and so forth. All right, then wrapping it up here. North Korea has inked a deal, waiting final approval from the U.S., which I can't imagine. South Korea. No deals with North Korea. South Korea has inked a deal with Boeing for the wedge tail, the E-7 wedge tail, which the U.S. Air Force is in the procurement process. We've talked about that in recent times. Australia and UK also are flying and or going to be flying more of these. This has replaced the AWACS, the Airborne Warning and Control Plane, command and control. Painting the radar picture and controlling the air-to-air fight is just one aspect of it, but this is the latest and greatest, better technology that's rolling down the line. $4.9 billion deal if approved. And again, I cannot imagine the U.S. not approving to sell that to South Korea, but means Boeing and everyone else is going to be pretty busy making all this happen. All right. Quick down and dirty for the lowdown this week. Make sure you grab the newsletter. It is in the link down below, and you can get that each and every week absolutely free. And we'll see you next time.